Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me on the second episode of Crafting a Photograph. Today we have a really good discussion for you guys. Last week our first lesson was on intent, and this week we are going to be talking about interpretation. This week I'll be challenging you guys to try and unlock some new perspectives and ask those internal questions so that you all can try and find your voice as an artist and gain some knowledge on why you shoot the way that you shoot. So let's get right into it. A great question that you can ask yourself when completing a photograph is, how will others experience this image? Now, last week I told you that when you start to create work not for the satisfaction of others, but for the satisfaction of yourself, then the others will then find your work satisfactory. The reason being is because people like to see an authentic voice. Humans are really funny in the way that they try and relate themselves to as many things as possible as to feel joined. When you create work that's contextually successful, people become drawn to that sort of fantasy that they're a part of that photograph. They place themselves into the image. Artists like Gregory Crewdson do an exceptionally good job at bringing you into this world that they create. His photos aren't too outlandishly different to where they couldn't be done in real life, but something about them seems so fanciful. Is that a word?
I don't think so.
Damn. But something about his photographs just create this fantasy that somehow seems obtainable but unobtainable. His intent is to create images like that, and he knows that, but the way that the audience interprets them are all drastically different. If you look at some interviews with him, he notes that, and he knows that going into creating his photographs, that his intent will be drastically different from the interpretation that the audience will have. But how do we become, as upcoming artists, as successful as conveying that meaning? Well, first we have to note that whenever an image meets an audience, it is no longer up to us how to interpret that image. It's now up to the viewer to see it however they want. What you shouldn't do is think that just because the interpretation may be out of your hands doesn't mean that you shouldn't shoot with intent. Your intent, vision, focus, all of that matters until the very last minute or last second when your image falls upon somebody else's eyes. It's kind of funny because pieces of artwork are kind of like celebrities. We should all know that with publicity comes judgment, interpretation, and sometimes a lack of privacy. The only difference is that that piece of artwork can't speak up for itself. Therefore, it is exactly whatever the viewer beholds it to be. I'll leave you all with a quote from the author of The Heart of a Photograph, the book that I referenced in my last Crafting a Photograph video, David duChemins. He states that nothing authentic is ever made while looking over our shoulders at others. Thank you for joining me on today's lesson in audience interpretation and watching the second episode of Crafting a Photograph. A link will be in the description if you would like to purchase your own copy of The Heart of a Photograph by David duChemins down below. You can also check out my portfolio, Instagram, TikTok, and print sale all down below as well. Tell a story without saying a word. Now get out there and get shooting.